Thank you all for joining. All the startups that you are going to see today are part of both our fintech batch and the enterprise tech batch. And so, the focal area for today's webinar is around automation. I think typically when people think about process automation, they only think about it from an operational standpoint. And so we've kind of brought together startup that provide automation capabilities in various functions, whether it's business intelligence, process discovery, operations, auto machine learning tech. We want to make sure we present, kind of some of the best companies that are in our batch right now, and they were selected by our corporate partners, and so you'll have the opportunity to see companies that many of our partners have chosen to be part of our program, and we're going to be presenting around 7 companies. They'll all have around 6 minutes to present, followed by 2 minutes of Q&A. If you want to move on to the next slide, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, specifically for the startup. And at the end of every startup presentation, a poll is going to pop up asking if you want to be connected with the startup. And if you wish to be connected with them, just mark it as yes. That window is going to pop up as soon as kind of the Q&A starts for every company that's presented today. And then our team will essentially follow up after their webinar to kind of make those introductions for you. And if you have any general questions, logistics around the webinar itself, please use the chat feature. So there is a separate Q&A box that you should see in the far right corner, and there is a chat function next to participants. So if there's any general question, please use that for general comments or questions around the webinar itself. And then for all of our presenters, if you're not presenting, please remain muted until it's your turn. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll cover different areas with each of our startups, and then please feel free to ask questions. And with that said, I'd like to start off with the first company, MachEye. MachEye is the only personal business companion built for every business user at an enterprise. They deliver data insights as interactive audio visuals coupled with natural search and clickless intelligence. They're built for the cloud. They give secure and governed business insights without limits, and they also add a play button for data consumption. And for those of you who've heard about or looking into augmented business intelligence, this is a very interesting company. They were actually also voted as a Gartner Cool Vendor, I believe, last year or this year, but Ramesh will correct me, but I know that they've been voted as a cool vendor. With that said, I'd like to pass kind of the mic to Ramesh to introduce himself and the company. And like I said, if you have any questions for the company, please include it in the Q&A box. That said, Ramesh, are you on?
Okay, yeah, I'm on. I'm sharing my screen. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Ramesh, joining from the Bay Area. I am the founder and CEO of MachEye. And thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, Amit, and the Plug and Play team. MachEye, the name originates from Mach as a machine and an eye that is looking into the data. The machine is in the machine learning. We have built the product as AI as an architecture, and we have built it with a vision to become the personal business companion that every business user can depend on to know anything about the business, anything about the data. And Amit, thank you for talking about our Gartner School Vendor. Yeah, we got recognized as a Gartner School Vendor in multiple domains and offerings. And the product offering that we build, we are now applying into the business intelligence use case, the automation of reporting, charting use case, and to provide data intelligence for everyone in an enterprise and for all of their data. We understand what the users are looking for. We provide a search option, but we are also a search-less company so that end users don't have to search on an everyday basis. And we combine natural search with clickless intelligence and presentations as interactive audio visuals. We are a very IP-centric company. We are a well-funded startup from Canaan Partners and Westwave Capital. Some of the indicative customers that we had worked with are the largest pharma, largest insurance, and largest housing marketplace companies. And sorry, I went back. If I had to explain what is a customer's problem that we try to solve, so think of it as a bank or think of it as a fintech company. And a business user, sorry about this. So a business user, somebody who is going through the product demand and product offerings. Say, I assume they have a question on the savings account growth for that quarter in Florida. How does he get an answer? So if he is lucky enough, he can probably find a report or a dashboard. But most enterprises have an overwhelming of reports and dashboards, so they don't know what is up to date, what is contextual for them. So they may end up asking an analyst, and this data analyst or a business analyst would end up pulling the data from a data warehouse. It can be Snowflake, or it can be Amazon Redshift, or a Google BigQuery, or Oracle, etc. And optionally, they might also involve a data scientist to do some more modeling and analysis, who might make more copies. And eventually, a report comes back to the business user. But if there are more questions involved, there are the longer durations that is involved, more copies. And essentially, the decision-making process is slower. And there is an expert dependency on depending on the analyst, and some opportunities can get missed. And the business user don't have an ability to explore the data themselves. And from an enterprise standpoint, there is no ROI on all the tools and infrastructure that they're making on the BI, because BI is complex, can be intimidating. How do we solve the problem? Number one, if you think of the previous scenario as what you ask is what you get, what you may ask on in-person, email, phone, etc. But we are changing that paradigm. We don't have to ask really a question, and then we don't have to be confined by what you ask is what you get. You may get a lot more than what you want with this machine to human interface. Now think of the same scenario, the same business user, same question. Number one, we provide a natural search interface so that they can ask the question on themselves without asking, without depending on experts. And we convert the English into SQL, and then we analyze, we get the data without any data duplication. We do this directly from the data warehouse. And we also answer a set of recommendations. I assume that all this team, the business user and analysts, are meeting in a room. The user doesn't stop there. He might ask more questions. So all those questions we would forecast or foresee based on the patterns, and then we would answer them. Second, based on the clickless intelligence that we have within our product, we automatically deploy several machine learning models, dozens of machine learning models on our own, and we try to find intelligence. In this case, we say that 56% of these new account growth is happening in the Central Florida. Okay, that's an intelligence that the user did not ask. And then second, we say that most of these accounts, 38% of these accounts, are in one age group, 40 to 49. And then we will also tell that most of these new savings accounts happen with this promotion up to $2,500 bonus. So I assume if that was an offering or a promotion, we try to find that, and then we bring out that intelligence automatically. And how do we present all this to the user? We can present as charts and graphs that any user might normally expect. But we also present as text and audio visuals. Audio visuals is, again, one of our key unique play. And I assume that now this user is asking this question on the go on his phone. And we instantly generate typical turnaround time, a few milliseconds. And then we generate these audio visuals, and then this narrates as if a personal analyst for the business user would have narrated. And we do all of this with no data duplication, directly connecting to the data warehouse. And the key business advantages is that the decision-making process is faster, simpler, and still gives an ability to explore and converse. And we automatically surface opportunities, like the opportunities of the age, and then which promotion has contributed to this growth is something that we automatically find and surface. And third, we increase the user engagement and an overall ROI. let me quickly get to the demo. So I'll show the natural search dashboards, recommendations, clickless intelligence, and headlines. And headlines, think of it as flipboard sort of an interface. And as I start using the product continues to learn what the users are looking for, and it would start generating the headline news. Think of it as the difference between www.google.com and news.google.com. We have the search box, but doesn't mean the users have to constantly search. They can ask questions, or this gets generated. Let me quickly show monthly sales in 2020. So if I am asking this question here, sorry, I typed, and in here, so assuming that I type something like this, this is what the system is automatically producing and understanding. And then we just don't stop here. We also produce these audio visuals. Okay, so let me play this audio visual.
Good morning. This analysis measures monthly sales in 2020 and presents you the information with various perspectives. The total sales in 2020 is over 20 million in-store transactions. The sales growth between January 2020 and August 2020 is 75.2% when compared to the same period a year ago. The estimated sales between September 2018.
In the interest of time, I would like to say pause the audio visual. But this is something that the product is automatically finding and then creating for the user. And you see that even though it asked or made a typo of 20, like a long number, we still auto-corrected it and then found it as 2020 and not the other one. And these are all the various recommendations that the system is producing automatically, and by order types or by customer gender, who has produced what, and then the payment types and all of that in this particular data and the context that we got. So let me quickly go back. This is a customer use case that we have done in terms of the top 5 consumer pharma. It's $85 billion company, and we are helping on the operations use case over there. And this is pretty easy to get started with MachEye. We have a cloud offering that is available for anybody to sign up and try the product for themselves. They can connect to any of their cloud data warehouse. Our pricing is also published. We charge $18 per user per month. And the summary, how we differ from any other BI product, is that we make faster decisions with natural search, uncover opportunities with clickless intelligence. We scale for everybody, and we also do the low prep, no prep of data on the cloud to make it very easy. And audio visuals are again very unique to us. We finally tell the customer that we give a play button for their analytics. And thank you, everyone. I'll just pause and take questions.
Thanks, Ramesh. Quick question, right from the top of the bat. I know we're almost out of time, or we are. This reminds me of, kind of a lot of kind of like Tableau demo. They're very much kind of prevalent in a lot of organizations, but there's a lot of kind of manual workings that are required to kind of produce those analytics within Tableau, or likes of Tableau or demo. Do you foresee kind of MachEye to kind of replace those kind of analytics tool, or do you see it more being complementary?
Well, we start complementary, and Tableau, Click, Power BI, etc. They are more analyst facing, and we are more end user facing. And in a bank, I assume that all the wealth managers, all the account managers, branch managers can actually use our product and not necessarily go by Tableau, not look at the standard dashboards. We give the exploratory capability, and we also empower the citizen data scientists. That's a terminology that a lot of enterprises are now talking about. Any user that don't need any training. And within the product, we are doing a lot of process automation to produce all of this, to empower the customers even to make their everyday operations done on their own.
And quick question, does your application support Japanese?
Not at the moment. We are working only on English at this point.
Got it. Do you have an appetite to work in the Japanese market?
We have to tweak our both NLP and NLG engines, the one that is consuming English and the one that is producing the language. We may have an appetite, but we can talk about it offline. Yeah.
Got it. And then do you connect to Enterprise Data Lake?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. That's all the questions, Ramesh, and thank you for presenting. Next up, we have a startup that's actually currently in the Fintech batch, and they're from Europe. And kind of, most back office tasks still rely heavily on people and paper. Besides being costly, manual data processing, they're slow, error prone, and simply mind numbing. And so Hypatos offers a machine learning technology to automate document-based processes and such as invoice processing, travel and expense management, loan application validation, and insurance claims handling. And so to achieve this, Hypatos combines the latest language processing technology with its training datasets of more than 10 million annotated data entities. This combination enables an in-depth understanding of document content and provides kind of clients with kind of an end-to-end automation for document classification, information capturing, content validation, and data enrichment. And with that said, I think, Sam, we have you on the line. If you unmute yourself, I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. That's a great summary. Let me start screen sharing to go into a bit more detail if you like. And quick intro on myself. This is Cem. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Hypatos. And what we do at Hypatos. First of all, we are, as mentioned, we are 100% focused on document automation. We are a tech spin-out from an accounting services firm. We have our own in-house data factory and R&D team, and we have been called as leader of deep learning in document automation by our numerous partners and customers. And we are supported by global investors. We raised 10 million euros this month during the COVID-19 time. So it was exciting and definitely a validation of the direction that we are heading in. We work with both consultancies, the Big Four, McKinsey and BCG, and also technology companies, because we are a component company that makes other software smarter. And we serve more than a dozen Fortune 500, including US financial institutions, and more than 300 software providers white label our technology. So we serve both enterprises, but we also we also help smaller companies leverage our technology to serve their customers better. And and the problem that we are solving, to go into a bit more detail, is manual document processing. And the specific use cases, such as, for example, unsecured loans, pay slips need to be processed. In mortgages, there are various documents, both outlining someone's income, but also their ownership of their assets. And commercial loans has quite a few interesting document cases as well. And we have accounts payable and travel and expenses processes which are applicable across all industries. And in all of these cases, the benefits are probably clear, but it's also good to compare against other technologies like RPA, for example. RPA is great for automating repetitive processes, but it is not so great when it comes to understanding documents. And our technology is expert at document understanding. So we work a lot with RPA providers, actually, like UiPath and Automation Anywhere and Blue Prism in our client projects. In terms of numbers that we achieve, of course, in terms of cost and time, this is a much faster and cheaper process, and we are able to reduce errors because we combine human and machine intelligence. And the features of the product are, first of all, document understanding. So in any document-based process, the data in the document needs to be converted into a machine-readable format. And we are quite confident of our capabilities there because of three reasons. First of all, technology. We use the latest approaches such as word embedding in text, which helps us understand how different words are used in relationship to one another and understand the context. So this is like how Google Translate is able to translate taking into account the context. And for table understanding, we are relying on computer vision. Secondly, we have quite some experience with these technologies. We are a tech spin-out, so we had more than 5 years using deep learning on documents. And this 5 years of engineering experience really makes a big difference in the results. And finally, along the way, we had a chance to create a massive training data set, which improves the model accuracy. And once the data is extracted, we validate and enrich the data. And we use machine learning in those operations as well. And we have a product for human in the loop for making changes to document output. And we also have system integration components and flexible deployment options such as on-prem and private cloud to make it flexible for the technology teams to deploy our solution. I'll jump into a quick demo. You can try it yourself as well on Hypatos AI. You can just fill out our contact form to access the demo. And here I'm gonna use a common document that we are all familiar with, which is a business invoice. We can also do receipts. We have them in the public demo. And here I sent one German and one English document to the system. And one thing to pay attention to is the output is going to be normalized. In this German document, the total is indicated by Summe, but we do not provide that in the data entity. We provide a structured, consistent data output regardless of the language of the document. For example, in the English document, we are providing the total amount under the, again, in the same data entity. And we extract all relevant information from a single document. We extract more than 100 data points, and this is a simple 2-page document. And we are also quite good at understanding tables. We extract all relevant information, and even in multi-page tables without headers, we are quite accurate at extracting all relevant details. And we have the human in the loop capabilities as well. People can easily make changes to the output of the documents and assign different fields here, or do other corrections to ensure that the results are accurate. And this also supports our continuous learning. So in short, we have a high automation rate solution for enterprises processing documents. Thank you very much indeed.
Dan, thank you for that presentation. I'm actually curious to know how well do you handle unstructured data sets, or if you can handle them?
So we don't really work with structured documents much. Everything that we work with has millions of different varieties, such as payslips. Every company has a different payslip, and we process those. So in terms of variety, we are quite flexible. But when it comes to things like emails, they are not our focus area, because from an email, you can't really define which data needs to be extracted. Every email text includes different things, and we don't know in advance what's included in the email. But whenever the document has an operational purpose, then we can work with that document.
And do you support multiple languages?
Yes, so any language that uses Latin alphabet, we support it. We have a Japanese model. We are building the Chinese model, which should be ready in the next month.
Got it. And thanks a lot for your time. I'll move on to the next company. With that said, please vote if you'd like to connect with Hypatos. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
The next company, I'm a little biased. I've come to know Avinash since kind of early 2020. He was actually part of our enterprise tech batch, and then also was simultaneously part of the InsurTech batch. He received great traction from those two ecosystems, and now he's part of Fintech. So, I've come to kind of know Avinash quite well through the program. He's a great kind of thought leader in kind of the future work, automation space, and a great person to know. With that said, I don't want to promote you too much, Avinash. So, set the bar low so you can exceed expectations. But the next company, Skan, they use artificial intelligence to identify patterns, variants in various business processes to provide full transparency as to kind of how work actually gets done in an enterprise. Because Skan uses computer vision to watch digital screen at scale, it does not need kind of any access to your back-end systems. And so this actually makes it really a breeze to install and use. And so kind of they're tremendously applicable for kind of any sorts of process automation, digital transformation efforts. Every one of them can be kind of I would say every instance can, you can achieve a higher ROI by using kind of Skan as a component, because they can help you discover and monitor how work gets done. I think this is super important because I think a lot of people or companies put the cart before the horse, where you'll start digitizing or automating for the sake of it because you can. If you're automating away and process that's already inefficient, you're not changing kind of anything. So I think, as you kind of undergo your automation journey, it's very, very critical that you understand kind of how the work is done in your organization, so you can kind of rethink or reimagine your process to start from scratch, instead of just doing the same thing over and over again that may not in itself work. With that said, I want to hand the baton over to Avinash. You can take it over from here.
But you explained it so well that I feel like saying I'll take questions. But I think you touched upon all the right points, is that this whole notion of transformation and automation or re-engineering compliance, all of this is built upon understanding of the as is at the start of that journey, and the ability to be able to use that as is as a grading point, as a point of comparison with what happens after you transform, right? And so these twin notions of discovery and monitoring, or discovery and comparison, are fundamental to us being able to assign the true ROI to many of these digital transformation projects that we are doing across the industry. Sadly, this is difficult to do because there's a lot of things that are invisible about business processes. We fundamentally, our understanding of business processes has been built on very antiquated ways of either observing people or having business analysts map out work by asking questions fundamentally. And that does not work, because when you ask someone what is it that's happening in a given business process, the answer is not what people are doing. The answer is usually what they're supposed to be doing. So there is always a gap between what is observed and what is stated. Also, when people begin to describe work, especially digital work with all its nuances, exceptions, and permutations, we can only describe it to a certain level of abstraction. It can never go down to the true detail. And that also comes in the way of our discovering of business processes. Now, because we don't discover that, there is this invisible, there's the great amount of opacity in business processes, which then forms a barrier or an impediment towards true success in automation efforts, in both pre and post, in digital transformation, re-engineering of processes, and indeed finding issues in our processes with regard to risk and compliance in real time.
Sorry, quick question. Are you meant to be sharing slides? I just want to confirm, because you're not sharing if you are.
My apologies. Sorry.
We can see. You're good.
Okay, so I spoke through not just one of these slides, is that why is it so difficult to tell what the business process is like on the ground, and why there is a gap between what organizations think is their business process, whereas the real business process on the ground. And this has significant implications in the lack of ROI that we see on many digital transformation projects. So our solution is built completely, Amit, as you said, around observation. So we observe the screen feed of various individuals involved in a given business process. This observation is both continuous and unobtrusive. So for example, we don't say, well, show me what you do, because that is tantamount to asking them what they do. So we observe work in its totality. If there is noise in that work, so be it, across a population of workers. And because we use computer vision, there is no need for any kind of backend integration. From an implication point of view, the results that we produce, or the business process models that we produce, which are data-driven models, based on what is actually happening on the ground in the enterprise, in those business processes. We have a fundamental implication on digital transformation, what tooling, migration of applications, new tooling to be put into place. All of this is fundamentally impacted by data-driven models that we create. Also, from an operational point of view, where do you optimize operations? Where do you, retrain people? Where there is a churn of people, how do you make sure that process is followed? All of those kinds of things, right? And then from a general conformance point of view, it is so simple to say many things, right? It's simple to say to a team that do this, right? For example, before you click pay invoice, make sure you eyeball the work order, right? But it's very difficult to make sure that that is done. So from a vision point of view, that is something very elegantly solved, that you can watch work and you can put up rules as opposed to application toll gates to be able to make sure that the process is compliant. And if it is not, be able to know in near real time where at scale the organization is not compliant with certain set of actions. And of course, because you have such a deep description of what we are doing as human beings with digital systems, this provides a clue into automation, provides deep analysis and indeed process disaggregation diagrams into where you need to automate and what that automation looks like. So we're not an automation company, but we form the basis of all optimization and transformation before automation, and after automation, continuous monitoring and compliance or transformation of other kinds into business processes. I'll do a quick run of what our system looks like, and I'll show you an example of where without any human input, just by watching the screens, what's the level of detail that can be produced in a given business process. So this happens to be a process where people are going through all kinds of tooling, Citrix-based, web-based applications, and so on and so forth. And there are various nuances of this process that come out by just observing work, and you can simulate it as well. So you can run through various aspects of where the process slowed down, sped up, statistically, who are the people involved, what are the nuances, what are the different variants of work, right? And how do those cluster, when do they happen? All of these things become visible. Again, lots of filters on where there are performance outliers or participant performance or preset filters on compliance, right? Certain things that people should be doing are not doing. Bottlenecks, as well as predictions on where automation must happen or where is a good case for automation on behavior that has been observed across the process. Build dashboards around process, around participant behavior and participant work, throughput. So capacity allocation becomes easy. A similar thing from an application point of view, where applications intersect work, comparisons between various forms of work by different people or different variants of work. And also a very deep record of work in terms of being able to replay a historical piece of work or historical way in which people go about doing their tasks. So what does Skan do for the enterprise? Understand and optimize before the intervention and monitor, manage the impact after the digital intervention. We do not automate, but we do map the work before you automate and monitors after automation. We drive continuous compliance, we benchmark work, and then create insights into the people, process, and tooling part of the business process.
So
currently we are at play. Yeah.
Sorry, we're out of time. So
sure.
I'm going to ask a question. So leave that screen, leave your use cases on there, Avinash.
Sure.
So Gina, move back to use cases so at least people can see read it on there.
Sure.
And for audience, if you want to meet with Skan, please vote on the poll that's shown up. I do think we have a question for you, because I think it's important to understand kind of the kind of nuances within process discovery. You've got companies like Salonis that use kind of the event log based solution. Can you explain to the audience kind of where the key differences are and where I guess Skan shines?
I think there's both a technical difference and a philosophical difference. The philosophical difference is what is work? Is work the committed states that are left behind in the databases, or is work what happens between those committed states? And so when we look at approaches that are built on backend data, we're essentially looking at committed states of work, whereas a lot of nuance of work and a lot of opportunities for transformation, optimization, automation, risk, and compliance actually lie between those committed states of work. So by the very definition, if you want to understand human digital work, then we want to understand human digital interactions. And therefore, the need, as we are doing, is to stay on the screen. A bit of a technical difference is that when you look at the industry and the audience that we serve in largely, which is insurance companies, mortgage companies, financial institutions, not all of them have systems that are amenable and ready to be interrogated from a backend data perspective. They may have, legacy systems, automate multiple, customized systems and modern web application, all of them playing at the same time. It's a very difficult thing to get to the backend data, even if you wanted to, if it was useful to you. Much easier, much more elegant and powerful to look at work from the screen. That would be the two things why I think our approach, in some sense, is much needed by the industry today, and a lot of our customers are adopting it as well.
And then, quick question: how do you charge customers? Are you recurring or pay as you go?
No, we're recurring, and it's entirely based on the user population whose work is being mapped, modeled, and managed.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Avinash. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The next company I'll bring up is Dotdata. Rayu, are you on? Perfect.
Yep.
Well, I'll just give a quick introduction. Dotdata, they've essentially pioneered auto machine learning 2.0. I'm actually curious what that means, so hopefully you'll explain it in your presentation, or I'll definitely ask again in our Q&A. But you essentially help business intelligence professionals to add AI and machine learning models to the BI stack, quickly and easily. Their platform ingests raw business data and uses an AI-based engine to automatically discover meaningful patterns and build machine learning ready feature tables from relational, transactional, temporal, geolocational, and text data. Their automated platform discovers patterns, optimizes machine learning models, and makes it easy to deploy predictive algorithms without impacting operational data. They have been recognized as a leader by Forrester in 2019 in the new wave for auto machine learning platforms. They've also been recognized as the best machine learning platform for 2019 by the AI Breakthrough Award, and was named as an emerging vendor to watch by CRN in the big data space. And they were actually also recently named as the CBI Insights Top 100 AI Startups in 2020. So with that said, I'd like to pass kind of the baton to you. Take it over.
Yeah, thank you, Amit. Actually, you have explained what I'm about to explain, but let me do my best. Right, so good morning, everyone. This is Ryohei, CEO and founder at Dotdata. So today, in this very, very challenging economic situation, everyone must move from physical to digital, and you have to automate everyday decision-making based on your data. Not only traditional area like marketing, but all business area need automated intelligent decision-making today. And Dotdata is the AI automation platform that enables you to deliver AI product just in days and realize your automated decision makings with hundreds of AI models. So in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to explain what is Dotdata AI automation and how simple and fast your AI project will be with Dotdata. So in short, this is a problem we are solving, the conventional AI project at enterprise. AI process starts from collecting data from different business systems, like a traditional data warehouse or data lake or just a local CSV files in your local laptop. Data is not stored for AI, but you store data for business. That's why when you come to the AI project, you have to unify information from different business systems, cleansing, wrangling, architecting data. Now you have to discover useful data patterns based on your intuition or based on your domain expertise, which is usually called the feature engineering process. Then once data is prepared, you have to carefully tune different machine learning algorithms to achieve the best performance, and then build a predictive dashboard or on your BI stack or integrate your AI models for automated decision making in your business system. So in summary, this is a very, very lengthy, complex and manual process. The traditional process often takes months to complete. So enterprise AI project has been never fast enough. And more importantly, only high-skilled data scientists can develop AI models. So you cannot scale the practice, or even many enterprises today still cannot start AI project because they don't have data scientists. So this is how Dotdata, our AI automation, changes the process. Dotdata automates the entire process, including collecting data, cleansing or wrangling data, and even without putting domain expertise. Our AI engine is going to discover useful data patterns and data insights and give the insight to you. And of course, Dotdata automatically optimize the machine learning models. Typically, our process takes only a few hours to complete for one iteration. You may want to do a couple of iterations to fine-tune the model, your AI model for the production. That says you can shorten the project turnaround from traditional months to now days. So this is the power of Dotdata's AI automation. And the way to use Dotdata is extremely simple and very, very different from traditional AI machine learning platform. First step is nothing fancy. You have to first load the data, drag and drop, or just connect with your database, and you load the data. And then this is, the second step that, our magic happens. Well, basically, you need two things to tell to the machine. First, you have to tell machine like what you want to predict. This is basically your objective. And then you have to specify business tables that you want to use. 10 tables, 20 tables, time series data, text data, geospatial data, whatever data is fine, and how many, many tables you can use it. And in principle, with these two information, Dotdata is going to take care of all this heavy lifting process from the beginning to the end. And in a couple of hours, your AI models and data insight are ready to be integrated to your BI dashboard and your business systems. So eventually, we are automating the entire process of AI development, and what value then Dotdata delivers to your business. First value is the speed. You can build a production-ready AI model just within days. And additionally, Dotdata makes your AI development process more agile and more robust. As you may know, traditional AI development often fail after a lot of upfront effort for wrangling data before seeing the business outcome. But with Dotdata, you can get the first AI model within hours and show it to your business, and then quickly get the feedback from business to finally adjust and deliver the result that matters for business. Second value that Dotdata can deliver is the scale. As you saw, Dotdata is extremely simple to operate, and no technical complexity is required for user to understand. So Dotdata enables even BI people or analytics team to deliver AI project. You can leverage existing BI analytics team and execute a much more AI project, even without data scientists. So this is a quote from, yep.
Sorry, we're out of time, so
okay.
I'd like to move to the Q&A.
Yep.
If you'd like to connect with Dotdata, a poll should have popped out, so please mark it as yes if you're interested in connecting with them. Right, for our listeners or viewers, you kind of classify or label yourself as the 2.0 of kind of the auto machine platform. So can you kind of explain, I guess what makes you kind of the next level in auto machine learning platform, and how does it compare to the incumbents like data robots or H2O?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are many automated machine learning platforms in the market, but all of them are eventually automating the machine learning part of the process. And as we saw this very, very lengthy chart, the core key of the machine learning project is not actually which machine learning algorithm or how to tune machine learning. However, we have to input the meaningful data and the meaningful patterns to the machine learning. And this is a heavy lifting part of all machine learning AI project. And Dotdata, why we are very different, because we are the only platform that can automate this 80% of the part of the process using our AI engine.
And then we have a question, you know, data cleansing is tough work because query formats are different for database. How do you shorten this process? And do you need training for cleansing?
No, this part is basically why we are very different, right? So basically we are automation platform, and we do not require a lot of, for example, data cleansing operation on top of our GUI. But our engine is going to understand how your data looks like and automatically perform these data cleansing work for users.
All right, thanks, Troy. That's all the questions we have.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up, we have Automation Hero. Are you on the line? Hey. Hi. Hey, glad to have you on. You know, this is another one of the companies that I've come to know since I joined Plug and Play last year. I think this is one of the first companies I met, and you know, I've seen them kind of progress through our ecosystem, and I think they're absolutely fabulous. But you know, again, I need to set the bar low so so Stefan can exceed expectations. Yeah, but Automation Hero combines RPA with AI to form a true end-to-end intelligent process automation. I think we're seeing an evolution from RPA to robotic process automation to intelligent process automation. You know, so they want to automate easy or complex, repetitive and time-consuming tasks for knowledge workers. And you know, they've got their own proprietary deep learning-based intelligent OCR, dark data extraction, intent detection, amongst many others. And they've also actually released their own kind of recent process mining functionality, if I remember correctly, earlier this year. And this is really interesting because you don't depend on third-party vendors. You really are trying to be the end-to-end solution. And you know, you clearly, I mean, from what I've seen, you know, you've been getting a lot of traction in our financial services space within InsurTech. Now you're in the InsurTech batch. So Stefan, I'll let you take it from here. Please introduce yourself and kick it off.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for allowing us to present here. We really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, quick background, we are Automation Hero, we're 3 years old. That isn't our first rodeo here. I was founder of a big data platform called Hadoop that turned into a $150 billion business. Was the lead architect for the Apple iPhone backend, and then my last company, Data processes 80% of all financial transactions in the United States. But 3 years ago, kind of me and some of my best folks really left because we wanted to make data more actionable and really like move from data insights to actionable data. And here we are. We're seeing phenomenal early success here. Basically, we're already automating a quarter of all US insurance customer interactions. Can't tell or say the customer, but based on you know, market ownership. So we also already got recognized from Gartner. We're very thankful for that. But really what we observe with our customers is that they're hitting a wall with traditional RPA, especially as they're thinking of implementing this notion of hyper automation, bringing all the different tools together. It takes just an awful amount of time to bring the OCR, the AI, the user experience piece, the user in the loop, the data integration together. So our mission is really building that end-to-end platform, as you already perfectly outlined, and therefore really focus on time to automation and quickly getting things out. Most recent research by Stanford showed that every 3.5 months, AI models double their performance. Yeah, and we really want to give any kind of company the opportunity to quickly you know, improve their business processes, because it's a really tough environment right now. So we built our product around this notion of a business process cycle. You always have humans, you always have documents. These might be PDFs or images that need to be turned into structured data, or you might have emails, as mentioned and asked before, where you want to extract structured data out of completely unstructured again, emails or maybe even legal documents, yeah. You always have some sort of workflow, you know, if the insurance claim is above $1,000, this is what we want to do. If it's below $1,000, this is what we want to do. Of course, you need to integrate into other business processes, into IT systems, and hopefully, you know, you use insights to continuously improving your business process. Or of course, as we heard earlier in a great presentation, even get insights, what you even should automate. So our products aligns around that notion, that continuous improvement cycle, if you will, as well. We have capabilities to bring the user into the loop. I will show you in a second. We have best OCR in the market around forms and handwritten. We're extremely good with handwritten documents and forms, but also unstructured data. Our AI studio allows us to do text classification, for example, understand what is the intent of an email. Is it a code request, is it a complaint, or extract dark data such as, hey, my address changed. What is the new address? Extracting that structured data. We have a no code environment to really visually click together your business process. We have that capability to integrate into even mainframe systems and such. And the ability, of course, again, to monitor that all in a visual way to continuously improve. So if we double click a little bit more on that, our platform actually runs on-prem with a lot of our financial service customers, or in the cloud. That's your choice. Military grade reliable. I don't use that really lightly, but you hear my background. You can have 10 machines cut the wire and still the two environments continue to work and reconnect, and you have zero data loss. So it's something we really focused on, especially in financial services. It's absolutely important and imperative that there's no misprocessing or data loss. We have traditional RPA. If you're lucky, has 60% success rate. Again, for us, this is really important. Really easy integration, even in mainframe. Actually, in fact, our application even runs on mainframe. We had a $60 billion German insurance that required us to make that happen, work with IBM on that. So if you still have Power PC architecture, no problem to run on that, or really easily integrate to copybooks or other bus databases, what have you. Beyond that, we speak to pretty much every data source. If it's data lakes, if it's Oracle Financial or SAP, Salesforce, any kind of SQL or NoSQL database. We can do streaming, we can do batch processing. You can build your own connector, so very powerful integration, usually point and click. We do go for a more process mining approach. Earlier we heard about task mining, where people observe the screen. We, partly European company, you picked that up from my accent, I'm sure. So we very concerned about like GDPR things. So we go into the back end. We basically just need to know the who, the what, the when, and then can create a digital clone of your business process. One really amazing thing here though, as we basically build your process visualization from your last 2 years of data, with just a couple clicks, you can turn this into an AI model, into a deep learning model. So for example, if the last 5 years you manually did an underwriting decision, you can, with a few clicks, create a deep learning model that is basically then training from the historical data and use that in an automation. So from institutional knowledge to AI models with a few clicks. Visual environment to build your deep learning models. Visual environment to build these flows, your automation, 250 functions built in, very easy to extend as well. The ability to bring users into the loop through what we call Robin, a personification of automation as a personal assistant. Many people call it Alexa for enterprise. Very easy point and click as well. And again, extremely strong around handwritten OCR for forms, or even unstructured documents such as power of attorney documents, signature identification, comparison, all that kind of thing, also point and click. And then the beauty is to bring this all together in a cohesive platform, massive, scalable, super secure, and really focused on citizen developers, citizen data scientists. Yeah, and that's really our platform. Looking forward to show you a little bit more. Sorry, it was very compressed and I spoke really fast, but happy to take some questions.
No, that was great, but maybe I've seen you quite a few times, so I understand it. But Stefan, a quick question for you. Since you are an end-to-end platform, some might say that, are you really good at each of those things versus someone who specializes in that? So if I was to ask you, what's your number one, what's your best capability or feature within Automation Hero? It's great you have everything, but what's that number one feature that that customers love?
Yeah, really getting the job done, right? This is the important thing. You can spend years of trying to duct tape together best of breed products that maybe get you 3% better accuracy in a certain thing. First of all, it is very simple for us to integrate any kind of other AI platform or OCR platform to APIs, or we can even run them as functions in our platform. So if there's already some investment in any platform, or it is absolutely critical to shave off another couple %. But the reality is, you spend, just evaluating software costs you at least $100,000 with all your people involved, with IT and so on. So what we really see, there's just a massive ROI. First of all, obviously, if you buy 5 tools versus 1, there's a massive difference in what you invest. And then again, if you do the math for these big insurances we work for, we're talking millions of dollars bringing the automation into the production environment, now, or, just a couple months later. So really the benefit is the time that you save, completely compliant for GDPR and HIPAA and so on, have that available right now. And then, again, if you choose to improve things, you can just upload a greatly trained AI model that's a little bit better instead of using ours. That's totally fine.
Got it. Thanks a lot for your time. And anyone, if you want to reach out to Automation Hero, if you haven't filled out the poll, if you weren't able to, feel free to shoot me an email. I'll provide it at the end of the presentation. But thanks a lot. Next up, we have Mimica. I've just come to know Tuhin, who's the founder of Mimica, very recently. I'm quite jealous because he's in England right now, my hometown. I definitely miss it. I would be there if I could. But Mimica, they use AI to accelerate the deployment of robotic process automation. RPA is time consuming and it can be expensive to deploy, with companies spending 5 times as much on the expensive consultants who deploy the software as they do on the software licensing. And so Mimica cuts the man hours required to deploy RPA by 70%. So RPA teams can get 4 times as many bots into production each year. And they do this by recording employees on the computers and then using artificial intelligence to automatically generate kind of blueprints for bots. On average, Mimica users get 80 to 100 bots into production in the first year alone. Its technology has been used by both fledgling and mature RPA programs at companies like Citibank, Raymond James, and Dell. So Tuhin, I'll let you take it over from here.
Great. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Amit. So can you guys see my slides okay?
Yeah, we can see them.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. My name's Tuhin Chakraborty. I'm the CEO of Mimica, where we accelerate the deployment of robotic process automation using artificial intelligence. We're kind of at a very exciting time in the company right now, an inflection point, you could say, where we've recently sold a number of enterprise license agreements to large enterprises. And I've picked a few from the different industries that we service today: manufacturing, financial services. Deutsche Bahn is a logistics company in Germany, transportation and logistics. So RPA is very time consuming and very expensive to deploy. That's probably the one thing that anybody that deploys RPA can agree on. Even Automation Hero referenced that in the talk previously. So it takes 16 to 20 weeks to get a bot into production. That means figuring out what to automate, understanding the process, spending time with the SME to document the process, and then turning that documentation into requirements for the developer. It's excruciatingly long and slow. So the purpose of Mimica is to automate this manual work that goes into the deployment of RPA. And that's what we've done. So with Mimica, we cut the time it takes to deploy RPA by 75%. And on average, with Mimica, it takes 6 weeks to get a bot into production, from the identification of the process to the development of the bot. So just to say that one more time, 16 to 20 weeks without Mimica, 6 weeks with Mimica. So what that means is, let's say you're planning to deploy 20 bots next year. With Mimica, you can deploy 80. And just to put a number on it, you know, the incremental value of that, of deploying 80 bots next year instead of 20, is going to be about $7 million from 115,000 additional man hours saved. So this is possible because of the latest advances in natural language processing and computer vision, which is technology that we use to record what employees do on their computers and automatically generate blueprints for RPA. So we capture the process, and then the output of our software goes directly to an RPA developer who will build the automation click by click. You can also use Mimica to prioritize thousands of business processes to figure out where the highest ROI opportunities are. So you want to look at all your business processes and say, okay, of these 2,000 processes, these are the 200 that I want to focus on this year, and I'm going to build, you know, 50 this quarter, 50 the next quarter, and so on. So just to give an example, earlier this year, we analyzed a stock price research process for a major US bank. It's a relatively small process. They spend about $250,000 on it annually. And over 1 week, we recorded the process and captured basic things like volume, average handle time. But what's unique about Mimica is we can tell you what percentage of the process is automatable. We're the only company in the world that can do that. And that's a really critical metric to determine where you want to spend your time in terms of automation. And then once we get those metrics, of course, we generate a map of the process that contains everything in it needed for a developed automated RPA, the deployment of RPA. We've automated the manual work of figuring out what to automate and what the process looks like at a click and keystroke level. So every step in the Mimica map contains every click and keystroke, essentially a sequence of instructions for the developer to follow to build the bot. And it drastically reduces the time it takes to deploy RPA. So at this company, it took them 8 weeks on average to get a bot into production, which is actually quite fast. You know, many companies, it'll take longer than that. And the reason is they took some shortcuts. They weren't automating the entire process. With Mimica, they got the bot into production in 4 weeks. So it was a 50% reduction in the time it took to get the bot into production. And across their RPA program, that translates to 60 FTE additional savings in year one, which is about a $6.5 million value. We also increased their average FTE savings per bot from a quarter of an FTE to a little over one FTE. Just to say, Mimica anonymizes all recorded data, so no confidential or personally identifiable information is persisted. And we offer both cloud and on-premise deployments, and we're both GDPR and CCPA compliant. So the final question I would leave you with when you think about whether or not you want to try Mimica or learn about Mimica is, how many bots are you planning to deploy next year? And what would it mean if you could 3x or 4x that number? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tuhin. I think that was a great presentation. I mean, I love the kind of depiction of ROI. You know, I could definitely relate to it. For those of you that want to connect with Mimica, please mark it yes if you'd like to be connected with them, just as a reminder. Tuhin, quick question. You know, who's your primary customer? You know, are you intending for it to be used by companies who would then take it to the consultants, or you know, it sounds like, you know, or are you meant to take it to the, I guess, the bot developers, because, you know, they can use the code to develop bots. I guess who's the ideal customer here?
Yeah, so I would say we have maybe three categories of customers. So one are companies that are at the beginning of their RPA journey, and they're looking at next year and they're thinking, okay, I want to get, 20 bots into production. And then they see Mimica and they go, oh, wow, I can get way more than that. And I can make a lot, or I can save a lot more money for my business next year. The second category is those people that are more mature in RPA. So some of the people that I showed on the first slide, like Raymond James, Dell, they have big centers of excellence that have, they've already got hundreds of bots into production. So they're looking at their pipeline and saying, can we improve this pipeline? Can we get more out of our existing resources? And then the third category are sort of our channel partners or consulting companies who deploy a high volume of RPA. They're the ones that really kind of squeeze us a little bit because they want to take the value that we produce and be able to create that value for their end clients. But of course, that's it's a great way for us to go to market as well. So that's another path that we pursue.
Well, I shouldn't say this out loud, but I think someone said to me that within the RPA space, for every dollar that the RPA company gets, there's $2 to be made by the consultants. So I'll leave it to that.
Exactly.
But thanks a lot for your time, mate. Next up, I'd like to invite Primer. I think Barry's on the line. Primer is another company that I've just come to actually get to know and meet this year. They're part of our enterprise tech batch. And essentially what Primer does is, they automate the processes that hold analysts, decision makers, and organization, back, enable them to make more kind of informed decisions at scale. So, what does that mean? An example is, an intelligence analyst, comes to work every day. They need to understand a specific topic. Right now, for example, what's the COVID impact in the European Union market? And they're expected to read, thousands of documents, understand over 200,000 plus words a day from hundreds of different sources. Unfortunately, we're humans. We can only comprehend, from what Barry tells me, around, 5,000 words a day. So Primer essentially allows these analysts to quickly uncover and understand the information that is important to them, and to quickly generate relevant insights for morning briefings and other outputs that might be required from them, and even for policymakers. That said, I'll pass it on to Barry. I think he does a great job of explaining kind of the product and showing a great demo. So Barry, take it over.
Thank you, Amit, and thanks to everybody for staying over. I know we're going a little long. I'm going to share my Google Chrome here. I'll present. So Amit did a great job giving the overview of us. We're about a 5.5-year-old machine learning, natural language processing company, really focused on unstructured text data. I know we've heard from a couple of people today, they're focused on structured and other parts of RPA. But as Amit said, how can you consume large quantities of text data and start to make sense of that? Humans are not that good at reading, comprehending, understanding large quantities. Computers are very good at that. How do you train the computers to put in the hands of those people that information they need to make to be able to go after, an intelligence use case? We came out of the U.S. intelligence community, and In-Q-Tel is one of our select customers on this screen. They're the venture arm of the U.S. intelligence community. Moved quickly into GIC, our first financial services company, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Singapore, if you're not familiar with them. And their use case was similar to kind of the intelligence and defense use case was, hey, we have a lot of portfolio managers and equity traders and analysts. We want them making our organization money or using their human insight to go make decisions or make insights, right? Not read, collate, deduplicate, synthesize content. Those are things that systems are very, very good at, that we've trained our systems to be able to do at Primer. So our mission is basically closing the intelligence gap. You've probably seen this slide for the last decade coming from the big data space. But as you can imagine, data is shooting up. You heard the stat that Amit said, the number of people that we're able to hire at these organizations to comprehend and understand and trade against this data or make decisions off this data is only increasing. How do you close that intelligence gap? The only real answer is doing that with systems. And that's what Primer focuses on. How we do it, we like to call this kind of the 3 S's to keep this simple. We take very unstructured data, Word documents, earnings calls, transcripts, sell-side analyst reports, SEC filings, the 10Ks and Qs of that, other regulatory filings, news, emails, you name it, very unstructured data. And we can train our systems with no prior knowledge to grab out all of those people, places, organizations, quotes, numbers, with no prior knowledge of that information to do that NER. So that's how we take the structured content from a very unstructured world without any prior knowledge. We summarize. Lots and lots of content is very long. How do you compress and get that down to something that you can go use to, again, make decisions, inform your boss, make a trade, follow that equity, whatever the case may be? How do you put that into digestible chunks? Another example, this is, how do you take that 20-page analyst report or the 200-page, Morgan Stanley update on the impacts of coronavirus on the US economy and distill that down to what your analyst should be paying attention to? We can train Primer to be able to do that as well. And then finally, surfacing the information that matters to you. As a natural language processing, natural language generation company, we're heavily focused on machine learning and machine learned models. How can we train those models to mimic that human behavior? Finally, as you can imagine, unstructured text data is everywhere. We operate obviously in finance, large in pharmaceutical, retail, CPGs. Something to stress here, being born of the US intelligence community, we are heavily focused on heavily regulated industries because we can deploy our technology on premise in a customer's data center, in the cloud, public, private, in ours, wherever that data may live, to allow customers to, again, make sense of the data that's important to them. So I'm going to close out of this, if I can figure out how to do it, and get into a quick demo. So I just took this CNN article from this morning, cut and pasted it. I'm going to put it into this demo environment right here and say, okay, Primer, take this one document that you've never seen before, generate a new title, go write a summary off of it, go do all the NER, go find those entities, and start to map out the relationships. So this case, it happens to be just a single document. I'll show you in a second, multiple documents. I live in San Francisco, so the wildfires are front and center for me, and I know a bunch of the plug and play people there as well. So Primer automatically generated a new summary, thousands of acres torched in new California wildfires, automatically identified topics. And then this is an example of summarization. And again, we were kind of bleeding edge, leading edge in this space. 3 different types: extractive, semi-abstractive, and abstractive. Abstractive is the more holy grail of summarization. How do you start to really mimic that human behavior with completely new sentences, new complete derivative content that isn't at all contained in that prior article? Going on to the NER, who are the people, locations, organizations, miscellaneous? And then finally, how are all of those entities, those individuals, mapping to each other? And again, this is one document off of that one CNN article. We do this both at the single document and both at scale and multiple documents. So we can move over to a system we have over here. And this is looking at about 1 million news articles a day from 50,000 or so sources. And you saw I just typed in a search for Apple, and this is going to go against about 7 million documents, automatically assembling and putting together kind of that analysis off of Apple. And the reason this search query turned green is because our system automatically knows that Apple is an organization or a company, the maker of the iPhone, not the fruit or the cider or the drink. Really, really important for that to know, so you obviously get accurate result sets. We give you a quick overview, what happened over the last week, what's happened over the last year against this equity. And again, this search could be on anything. Pictures, what are those events feed? I feel like I'm getting the Oscars music with Amit coming on. What are those events I need to be paying attention to over the last couple of days? And just to hit this quickly. So our system, we build machines that read and write. iPhone 12 release date rumors, Apple may launch device earlier than usual in South Korea. This was synthesized across Business Insider, India Times, and 118 more, 112 being unique. So we could dive into that, and I'll explain as it's loading before I get kicked off. Our system automatically understands that these 120 something documents are talking about the same thing over the same time frame, automatically generates a summary, key insights, quotes, what are the numbers we're seeing, who are the people, organizations, what is the history timeline of how those events unfolded over the last handful of months. Again, no prior knowledge of any of this information. It reads all those thousands of documents that match the Apple query over that time frame and assembles this so me as an analyst or trader can quickly make sense of that information to go do my job, not spend my time compressing, synthesizing, collating data. I'll pause there.
Barry, thank you for that presentation. Right off the bat, first, actually, sorry, if you'd like to connect with Primer, please mark it in the poll, and we'll connect you afterwards. But Barry, right off the bat, what is the accuracy of the? Some people might say, you've got a demo, it's ready, the machine, knows what you're looking for. But there are so many different types of use cases, nuances. What's the general accuracy of the platform?
So that demo did go live off the bat. I know I typed in Apple just because I can only type so quickly on live demos. The accuracy is in the high 80s to low 90%, depending on what we're searching for and data sets and things of that nature. Again, we can go after any unstructured. That was just an example after news data. But typically we surpass or at least meet kind of human potential. And then from like an NER perspective, we've gone head to head with the Googles and Amazons and Microsofts of the world and beaten them from an F1 score from a precision and recall metric as well. So done a lot of testing there.
And then so how do you improve accuracy of performance? Do you have a reviewing mechanism built in?
We have a completely separate platform where we can review and train the systems. And then as you know, in the precision recall world and machine learning, as we like to say at Primer, there's no magic, unfortunately. But what we're able to do is, depending on the use case and depending on the industry, people want to compensate for either precision or compensate for recall. And what that means is, are you okay getting false positives, or can you absolutely not miss anything? In the national security defense space, they'd rather have a couple false positives but not miss anything. Maybe as a trader, you don't want to be overwhelmed by information. You just want to make sure that the stuff you're getting is accurate. So you over-optimize for kind of precision in that kind of use case. So we can pivot depending on use cases and kind of personas.
And what's your business model?
So we're a software as a service licensing SaaS model. So we can deploy on-premise and license it that way, or have our hosted cloud and license it that way.
Got it. We do have other questions, but we're out of time. So if you'd like to connect with Barry, if you haven't answered the poll, feel free to kind of email me, and I'll be happy to connect you with him so you can get your questions answered directly from Barry. But thanks a lot for presenting. Looking forward to working with you in the next 3 months, I guess, or 2 months, whatever time we have left.
Thank you.
And then, I do apologize. I know we went over. I've been told that I need to cut down my introductions. I'll work on that. But, we do have other webinars coming up. This one's going to be hosted by InsurTech team, and it's going to be around, wildfires, hurricane flooding, and other climate catastrophes, and what startups are doing in this space. This is highly relevant for all of us. We've seen wildfires in West Coast. We're seeing hurricanes down in the East Coast. Whether you're a climate believer or not, we know things are changing. So hopefully you'll be able to join us. So please register for that event. I know there are flyers running around. And if you weren't able to mark down kind of the companies that you want to meet with, and feel free to shoot me an email. I'll be happy to kind of connect you directly to them. There'll be a survey that's going to pop up. If you could please fill that out and let us know how we did. We'd love to get your feedback because it helps us improve our future webinars. But I really hope at the very least, you at least found one company interesting and that you'd like to connect with. That's a win for us. So, hopefully we'll see you again in the future as well.